Good morning, students. This is the second lecture in Phonetics and Phonology for the second year students. Still my hopes and prayers with you and your families in this hard time and these hard circumstances. So we have to continue on uploading videos related to your subject or this course of year in phonetics and phonology. So we have the second part of chapter 4, which is related to voicing and consonants. In the second part we are going to discuss respiration and voicing. We still use the same textbook, which I recommend for you. It's better to use the original textbook, which is English Phonetics and Phonology by Pt.2. Actually studying using the textbook is far more better than any other resources like handouts or something like that. It's better to study in the book. It provides you with accurate information about the material, and you know that it's free of any errors that anyone might do when they are rewriting or trying to reduce the information. So we discuss respiration and voicing. In this section we try to understand how the voicing is made, but it is also discussing respiration, the normal way that we breathe in and breathe out. It's the same way we produce the sound, and we produce speech sounds by what's called aggressive pulmonic airstream. Aggressive pulmonic airstream. This aggressive pulmonic airstream simply when the air comes from the lungs towards the mouth or the nose. It's called aggressive pulmonic airstream. So it's simply the movement of the air from inside the lungs out, and this airstream, when it is exhaled, so we are inhaling, where we are sucking the air towards inside our lungs, and we exhale when we try to push the air outside our bodies. So aggressive pulmonic airstream is actually when you exhale, when you try to push the air from your lungs out. The air actually moves by the movement of the muscles in the rib cage. So the rib cage actually pushes the lungs or tries to squeeze the lungs. When the rib cage and the ribs actually they try to squeeze the air will come out, and the result will be what is called aggressive pulmonic airstream. Well, when the air is pushing out from the lungs, it will face certain obstructions, or here in this textbook is called structures. These structures will result in the speech sounds that we use in language. So these structures, or let's call them also obstructions, the result is the sounds or the speech sounds that we use in speaking. Well, the first thing that the air comes across or the first structure is voicing or phonation. In the previous lecture, we discussed the 4 positions of the larynx. When we discussed these 4 positions, one of them was related to the voicing. When the air is squeezed between the vocal folds, it will create voicing. So this voicing is the first structure, is the first obstacle that comes across the airstream. So this will result into some kind of a pressure under the larynx, because you know the air is not going freely, it's a bit squeezed, or it's under pressure because it's not a free path. So this will result in what's called subglottal pressure. Actually, we can control this subglottal pressure. So there are 3 ways in which we can control the subglottal pressure. You see that the first one is intensity. We can control the intensity of our voicing. So if we shout, if we try to raise our voices, we actually increase the pressure under the larynx, or what's called subglottal. So when it's the difference between speaking quietly, when you are speaking quietly, and when you are shouting. So the intensity, with high intensity when you are shouting, and with low intensity when you are speaking quietly. The second way we can control the subglottal pressure is frequency. So you can raise and you can lower the frequency of your voice. We can control also the frequency of the subglottal pressure, or the frequency of voicing, by when the vocal cords are vibrating rapidly. So how many times per second like the vocal cords can vibrate. So voicing is at a high frequency, where you can make it in high frequency when your voice is so sharp, like the women's voice is like a bit sharper than the men's voice. That's because it has a high frequency. And also when you are making fewer vibrations per second, it's like when it happens when men are speaking, so their voice is like a big not sharp, but you can say it's the volume is a bit harder. The third way in which we can control the subglottal pressure is variation in quality. So the quality of voicing is related to how we can prolong or shorten our vocal cords. So this will result in what harsh, breathy, murmured, or creaky sounds. So in summary to this lecture, we can say that we have discussed the aggressive pulmonic airstream. I told you it's the normal way of breathing. When you breathe out, during this process you can produce the voices or the sounds or speech sounds. The second topic, or the second important topic we discussed, is the structures here, or the obstacles that face the air when it comes out. These obstacles actually they create the sounds or the voice. The first obstacle is voicing and phonation, which is creates voiced sounds, or to be specific in English language, we create voiced consonants. So the third important topic that we discussed is subglottal pressure, which is the pressure that is created behind the larynx when we squeeze the air behind the larynx. We don't let it go. It will create a pressure under the larynx. We can control how the air comes through the vocal cords. We can control the intensity. When you are shouting, you are using high intensity. When you are speaking slowly, you are using low intensity. Frequency is also can be controlled, especially like in women it has a high frequency, and in men it has a low frequency. The quality of the subglottal also, it's related to the long or the length of the vocal folds. So you can actually imitate many sounds by changing the way in which the vocal folds are shaped. So it's more like a musical instrument, so you can control it, you can change it the way you like. I try to keep the lectures as short as possible. It's easy to upload them, and it's also easy for the students to understand them, instead of making a very long lecture. So this is the end of my second lecture. I hope that this lecture will be of some value to you, and most importantly, my thoughts and prayers are for everybody in our country and all over the world in these hard circumstances. So thank you very much for listening.